disease doctor, month-old grease traps, cockroaches, and dirty days-old oysters. A recipe for disaster, and the first stop on Gordon Ramsay's season premiere of Kitchen Nightmares. From botulism to frozen beignets and E. coli to etouffee, Chef Ramsay stages his famous interventions to help failing New Orleans restaurants wake up and smell the jambalaya. This is Reality Redux. Jacob and I are tackling Ramsay's shakedown of Iberville cuisine, a struggling bistro in the French Quarter. Joining us is my fellow contestant from The Floor Season 2, Maggie. Hi,
Hello.
Maggie.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? How have you been in the last few months since I've seen you?
I've been good. I've been just living life down here in New Orleans and having a great time, and really loved watching you all on the show.
Yeah, we had a good time. I know. For those of us, for listeners who didn't see The Floor Season 2, highly recommend. It's still able to stream on Hulu and available on YouTube. Maggie, unfortunately, was one of our early departed contestants, but she made such an impact, and we stay connected on WhatsApp and Zooms. And so I'm thrilled to have her as part of my social circle now. And to be fair and honest to the citizens and restaurant owners of New Orleans, we want to recognize that they are still struggling to recover from the recent events there, especially as they're getting ready for the Super Bowl coming up, which is probably the highest revenue producing event any city can welcome. They're trying to pull it all together to host hordes of people who will be teaming into that city for, libation and good food and, les bon temps roulés, as they say.
There you go. Perfect.
And so we just want to be fair to the folks out there and let them know that we are thinking of them, and that as we poke a little fun at some failing New Orleans restaurants, it is in no way meant to do just to that amazing city and all of the amazing food and people who are there. So I wanted to say that before we started.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You betcha. So I got to say, there is no shortage of stuff to talk about. Jacob and I, we already started bantering. I go, zip it. We got to save it for the podcast.
This episode was wild. I can't wait to see what happens for the next episode, because I was, I haven't watched Kitchen Nightmares in a while, and in past ones, especially out here in New Orleans, things have not worked out great for the restaurants that he's gone to. One of the places, the building has been demolished. The business didn't even just go out of business. The building has been demolished.
Wow.
Since he's been there. So it was really interesting seeing the promos for it. I knew he was coming out here, but seeing that the promos for it are right leading up to the Super Bowl, I was feeling a little icky about it, to be honest. But I'm excited to see what good can come from this, because all press is good press.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it really is. And I know, like Jacob, I think we haven't seen Kitchen Nightmares since its first iteration, over a decade ago. And
Yeah.
I felt Gordon was getting tired of the show for a few seasons, and it just kind of was coasting. And I was like, Kitchen Nightmares, whatever. But this season premiere really brought back some of what was, bad good about that show's concept.
It did. It did, because I'm going to be flat out honest. When we were told we were doing Kitchen Nightmares reboot, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm in. After watching this first episode, I'm like, okay, I can't wait. I want the next episode like today. Like, I need to finish the story here, because it was crazy. It drew me right back in.
Well, and they finished part one, right? I actually didn't know it was a first parter. I thought
didn't
by
either.
the time the clock is winding down and go, oh, Gordon's just going to walk away. He's going to be like, you are unredeemable. I am moving on. But no, it looks like there's another one coming. So who knew?
Yeah, I had not seen an episode like that before, where it's like the whole episode is just, this is a disaster. And then people come and clean it up later. Like it used to all just be in one episode, but I like that they spread it out, because also the people that were working at that restaurant, they deserve their moments so that they could show like they're trying.
They were, yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about them for a minute. Let's talk about the staff, because we're going to get miles and miles out of those clueless owners, no doubt.
Oh my God!
Just
the crazy look in her eyes. Just scared me.
Oh my! Oh yes!
That's the botox. She couldn't shut her eyes.
Oh yes! Well, you know what? Let's start there then. Honestly, anybody listening, I think Bonnie is the first person they're thinking of, the first person they're dreaming of and wishing they could wake up, because It was so funny. It's like the Iberville cuisine, and I was like, it's like Cruella de Iberville. It's like she had
Yeah.
this this nastiness about her. Like her countenance just did not. It
Right,
did
how is
not
she a
evoke
nurse?
warmth. Yes,
How
she's
is she
a
a
nurse.
nurse?
Well,
She's
that
like, I
too,
don't
and
really
then
deal with people well. What?
right, that's so she makes this comment. She's working this restaurant. She's like, "Yeah, I don't really like people. I don't want to deal with people." I'm like, "What are you doing in
Yeah.
the restaurant business?" And then
Who
right out
are
the
you?
jump, right after jump, the husband, I knew in 3 seconds, like I was like, "You guys are going to fail," because it's like, "Oh, I love to entertain people. This is like a hobby to me." I'm like, "You're done. Like
Yeah,
just from your statement, you're done.
yeah,
There's no way you're running a restaurant."
No. Yeah,
yeah.
he's not there. He's not in, like, he's monetarily invested, but he is not invested in that business.
It's a
So many
vanity
people,
project, right? I mean, it's an
yeah,
ego
so many
project for
people
him.
out here. Yeah, so many people out here, they'll come out, they'll take over a business or they'll start a business, especially in the restaurant industry, and think, I mean, it's New Orleans. People just come in. There's tons of people. It's just gonna work. And no, you cannot just pour money into it and pretend that it's gonna be fine. Like you have to cultivate like an actual like you have to have rules and regulations and like
Right.
procedures. You can't just have your
Health
friends become
standards, you
a
know.
waiter. Like
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't have Gordon
yeah.
Ramsay walk in and be like, "Wait, you don't sit anybody at the front of your restaurant?" No, because it's leaking. What's leaking? The roof or the fountain? Both.
Both.
I'm like,
Right,
what?
Both.
right, right. You've got this
And then
courtyard.
the fact that the chef is a plumber.
That's true.
The chef was a plumber. Like
What? That was totally
totally
lost
got
on
closed down
me.
for a day.
Like,
Well, he
how could
did
he
make
not
it.
fix the leak?
He
That,
did make it clear he was
Yeah.
an apprentice. He
oh
wasn't
yeah.
a full plumber. He was
Yeah,
an
he was an
apprentice
apprentice
plumber.
plumber.
He probably got as far as driving the panel van, and that was about it. He probably didn't
That's
get
right.
Yeah.
any tools on his
But
belt.
like
But
yeah, you can just see that staff they're like with them saying they have plan B, that's a big thing. You start going somewhere and you either bring your family in or people like I'm working at a bar that my husband's starting to work at and then I started to come in and bartend as well and it's just a thing where I'm invested because I love the regulars there. We've got like a whole community that we're building with there and my husband and I enjoy working at that place because we get to work together and we want to see the business thrive, but also like they're really smart. Whatever their plan B is probably somebody's. Yeah, there's just a place down the street where this family is just going to move to and work there instead.
yeah, I did find that in
Because
my I say 15 years of working off and on in restaurants, there is a level of I'll say incestuous, but not in the bad way. Although I don't know if there is a good way.
yeah,
But the idea is, servers date each other, managers often date servers and bartenders
yeah,
and
front
back
of
of
house, back
house
of
and
house.
front of house.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when somebody goes, it's usually because there's a toxicity that's built up there from
yeah,
bad relationships, and sometimes people will move on in clusters because they kind of follow each other. It's very interesting, and I found this the four folks we got introduced to. I think they were Haley, Hannah, Sammy, and Nate, right? And so Haley
Yep.
and Nate had been dating, she said, almost 6 years. And that poor guy, she didn't even know he could cook at all. I guess he can't, but she said, I had no idea he could cook
he
anything.
can't. He's
Uh,
eating up food and
yeah,
in
and
grease.
let me
Yeah.
ask you, Maggie, how hard is it to find a chef in New Orleans? In your
Not
experience? I mean, it would seem like you
like
could throw a stone and find
it's
somebody who's
crazy.
cooking.
Everybody well, he's the only one that's on salary. That's the thing is those people most like the bartender saying sometimes she'll leave and she doesn't get any money.
Yeah,
Excuse
Yes.
me, that's not. You have to at
And
least
the
do like the minimum hourly. I guess
and the
they're saying
fucking
that I'm not
is
going
$40 a
tips or
day, no
anything.
matter what.
yeah, the general manager,
Yeah,
$40 a day.
$40 a day. Like
$40 a day.
yeah,
that's like $5 an hour. That's insane.
Yeah. And
yeah,
like how do they get away with that? And it looked like from what we saw it was only Nate and Sammy in the kitchen. And Sammy said he doesn't cook anything but with his microwave at home.
And they have them
And
sitting in front of the microwave
yeah,
at the
so
restaurant.
it's like either there's a scarcity of qualified culinary folks, or they're not willing to pay squat and they're going with the people who are most desperate for
yeah.
jobs.
They're
Which is what I
it's
think
that
is
they
happening.
can't. It's yeah. It's that they're not paying the people because nobody. There's enough people that can cook that you wouldn't have to find a apprentice plumber to be your chef. Like there's enough
Right.
people to cook. You have to pay them.
I would figure as much. And
Like
it
whatever his
seems,
salary is, his salary is probably like 20 grand or something. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Well, and
Well,
they're
I'm like,
young. They're young. They
they're young.
yeah,
probably don't. They probably didn't do much past high school. Maybe they are probably love working together because it looks like they can have a
yeah,
good time. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nobody there to work
yeah,
for. The bosses are gone all the time. And but I think they're seeing
yeah,
that if we keep up what we're doing, this place is going to crash. And no
yeah,
amount of money thrown at a problem ends up fixing it in the long
yeah.
run. So
But like, what point?
Especially if you're
Like,
being cheap with your money.
yes,
yeah. But at
yes,
one point, even as the restaurant front manager, she's the only one that was in the restaurant business for any length of time. Like,
Yeah,
you got to be a really loyal employee. I am not accepting no job for $40 a day. I mean, I don't care what I'm doing, and when I'm bringing the experience. So why? I'm just more curious. Like, they don't ever really go into why she accepted this particular job.
yeah. And what is their plan B? I'm wondering.
That is also true. Like, where are they
Is
going?
I mean,
yeah,
we gotta remember, like with most of the shows we're gonna talk about on Reality Redux, is we acknowledge that these are productions, but they're still real people with real stories, and producers
yeah,
create the narrative that they want the audience to be entertained by. So I'm wondering if part two is going to reveal some maybe not so perfect aspects of the serving staff. They do come off as pretty flawless in this and victims of, Cruella and Camille. And I
yeah,
don't know. I'm wondering if there's more to it. So I'm wondering if something else will be uncovered next week. I guess we'll wait and see.
This
yeah.
this episode very much reminded me of one of the OG episodes of Kitchen Nightmare, which was my absolute favorite, and it was Amy's Baking Co.
Oh,
So where the staff was amazing, the people were just horrendous.
yes.
But the people started like the dude was taking all their tips. Like it gave me that vibe with these owners and their staff. Like
I would agree 100%. You're right. Those bosses, owners, it was a vanity project for Amy and her baked goods. The husband was clueless. I think he was connected to we'll just say criminal activity because I don't want to say something that's not right, but I do believe he was in prison for
yeah,
some
there's some
time.
weird stuff. Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, there was some under the table stuff going on there. And you're right, the servers were delightful. And again, they were young. They were young,
they
impressionable,
were.
and exploited. Much like I think Camille and I'm going to keep calling her Cruella, but Bonnie. I think they just exploited the whole concept of what they think restaurant touring means. It is not
Yeah,
a hobby. I mean,
Yeah.
all of the good restaurant managers and owners I know are like 80 plus hours a week. Like they are there all the time if
Yeah.
they're having a successful place. And it seems like something they wanted to do part time. And they're not even doing that, right? They're hiding out in the office.
No, they're just sitting playing on their phones. A
Yeah.
thing that I noticed, because mostly until I got my bartending job recently, but I have three different jobs that I do right now because it's the world. But what I first did when I moved out here was retail, and that's the thing is like somebody's the owner and they're trying to run a spot, and I've just always like everywhere that I've worked, I'm just really good at sales and I just a go getter and that kind of thing. So within the first week of me working and living here in New Orleans, somebody's like, and here's a key, and we're gonna make you a manager soon. And I should have known red flags.
Wow.
Why does this business that's been around for 10, 12 years need me to right now to be your manager suddenly?
right.
And then I got so stuck in it that I felt like I'd be letting the business down, even though I was just an hourly employee. So you just kind of get stuck in the like,
You get
oh, but
invested.
now if I leave, then I've ruined this. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
but they're not,
Yeah.
but they're also not handling it. So
Right.
yeah, you just kind of get stuck in that thing of like, well, I mean, I've already put this much time in it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's gonna get better. If we just do this, and so yeah, you just kind of get stuck. And then the people are like, "This is my dream." They make you feel like there's potential that soon you're gonna be able to do this. Soon it's gonna be better soon, and so you
Yeah.
just keep going there. And then
I,
they just break your soul, and then you
I
just
think
end up not being in retail anymore because you can't do it.
Right.
you're absolutely right. It's the recipe of an abusive relationship, right? I
Mhm.
mean, they lure you in with all of their best behavior and all of their promises and kind thoughts. And even Haley said, we were told we were one big family, and when we started, we were, and everything was great. And then it just started to not be so good. And
Yeah.
you get the sense that every once in a while, it's like, oh, I only hit you because I love you, baby. Like
Yeah,
Camille or
that's
Bonnie's going to say something like that, and everything will be forgiven for a week, and everybody will be nice, and then it'll all go back downhill. And
no.
meanwhile, these young people are carrying that level of responsibility and a certain Stockholm syndrome, right? They're kind of being
Yeah,
captive by these people, but feel like they can't let them down. And I think that's really, really shameful. It's not just the bad food and the cockroach on the wall, which we'll get to, but I think it's the abuse of their workforce. And who knows what else. I
yeah,
got to say, I don't know if Bunny has I don't want to speculate about what she may do to how do I say cope with her stress, but
yeah,
she looks a little rough. Like her eyes are bulgy constantly.
yeah.
She's twitchy. She
Her,
slurred her speech. Like I don't know what's going on with her, but it doesn't look good to me. She doesn't look healthy. She doesn't look strong. She
yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't put upon. I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, for
It's
one of the employees, Nate, I can understand why he took the job because he got a head chef job for being an apprentice plumber, which you're probably
Right.
not going to
Talk
get
about a
anywhere else.
promotion.
He's like, hey, I'll take a shot at being a head chef. Why not?
yeah,
I can deep
but
fry.
everything.
That's all they did. They deep
Yeah,
fried
exactly.
everything in that
Everything.
nasty, nasty dark grease.
Oh
Yeah, and like it's so easy to like it's so much more expensive to go to a grocery store and buy frozen food
Yes.
than getting a food vendor and having a schedule and like a plan and getting fresh food in. Like it's everywhere. It's a port city. Like
Right.
there's trucks everywhere delivering fresh food. The fact that it's oysters is on the opening sign, like on their sign is they serve oysters,
yes.
and that's huge. Oysters are obviously like everywhere really good, but like here it's a big deal. I
Yeah.
um I'm a plant based. I'm a vegan, and you might get some weird comments on your thing about this, but there's a back and forth. It's similar to honey, but oysters don't have a central nervous system or vertebrae. They're like plants to me, so I do eat oysters.
Interesting. Interesting.
um,
Okay.
yeah, and
Okay.
so and like I enjoy them. They're really good, but I'm very cautious, like everybody should be. So not
Yes.
cleaning them, and also how she says they didn't shuck it. So like it's a shucking oysters is actually a very dangerous job. You have to
Right.
have like a special glove on because you have that knife and it's right on your hand, so you can split your hand open. And then when you shuck it, you have to go underneath the oyster and get it out so that you can just like you can slurp it and do whatever. So like them just not being able to properly do oysters and having that be on their sign,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
you have to have a designated oyster shucker, and they should be up for like it's a whole display. That should be part of like in their front of house area where that take out that fountain and put in a guy with like the oyster spot with the ice and
Right.
everything, because that's a
Right.
whole thing. People sit up at the oyster bar and they'll watch it happen, and it's like a whole thing. They have the space instead of being in the back there. Like it should be, and also you want to watch your oysters getting made because you want to see that they're fresh
Yeah.
and being done
It's like
properly.
Yeah.
sushi. I
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah,
gas station sushi. I don't do
yeah,
sushi that I can't see what they're making or where they're pulling it from. And it is it's a display, it's a performance, it's an interactive aspect
yeah,
for a lot of tourists, particularly. If they're going to New Orleans, on their bucket list will be things like beignets, oysters, and gumbo. And it's like they're going to
yeah,
be looking for that. So you've got to do those well, like just the
yeah.
basics. And to
I don't think
serve
I've gone
Gordon
anywhere where oysters aren't shucked in front of me. Like
yeah,
I don't know anywhere that I would just have somebody bring out a tray of oysters.
and full of clay.
I need to see it. Yeah,
I
like
mean,
didn't
ugh,
clean it. It was a
no,
good giant oyster. I was really sad for that oyster to get wasted like that because that was a giant oyster,
no, and they're
and it
there.
just
They
got
know they've
wasted.
got Gordon. They have no
Yeah,
other patrons in the restaurant at that time, right? Like, because Gordon
yeah,
always goes in, empty restaurant usually. He says, I want one of everything, or give me your top
yeah,
five things. And that should not have been the case. And it was one. It's not like he had to shuck a whole dozen,
yeah.
and put out a whole tray. It was just, here's an oyster. And it was just terrible. And
But the problem is, like, that's just about as good as asking me to go shuck an oyster. You're probably going to get the same result where it's not going to look so great because I've never done it. And this kid
right,
probably has never learned to do it. So he's like, this is my best.
right, right.
Yeah, at restaurants, when you have like your whole staff and everything. If you have oysters, you have an oyster shucker. It's not just the chef. It's not That's their job. The whole
That's all
shift.
they do.
They stand
Right.
there and they shuck oyster, and like because you need to focus and you need to be like properly trained and handle it properly because
You,
it's a lot.
and you mentioned the beignets, and that's the employee I feel the worst for. When Gordon Ramsay's
Oh, that
like, "Hey,
girl.
here's $20. Go buy me some fresh beignets at another restaurant." That poor girl has to walk the shame down the street to another restaurant and be like, "I need
You
some
don't want to
beignets."
eat
Like,
yours?
you can't get it at yours. We don't do them fresh there.
Right, you're right.
I
It was
don't.
like it was the walk of beignet shame.
That would be the most
Yeah.
embarrassing walk in. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
But she said at one
And it's
point,
an
Hannah
easy
said,
thing to batch.
well, that's what I'm thinking. It's just fried. It's fried dough with powdered sugar. But the problem is, if you're going to fry any beignet in that
It
sludge,
can't be in
it's
that
not
dark
going to be
grease.
fluffy and
Yeah,
crisp,
It's
right?
gonna
It's
come
going
out
to
black.
look
with
like a
essence
big.
of cockroach on it. It'd be-
Yes.
Yeah. People will be
Well,
like,
it's
"Is that an
funny.
Oreo? Is this an Oreo beignet? Because it's like that dark."
Seriously.
Oreo.
And here,
It's magic shell. We cover our
Yeah.
beignets with magic shell.
let's touch on that real quick here. Out of all three of us, let me tell you what. If I look over and I'm sitting at a restaurant enjoying this crap meal that I'm already forced to eat, and I see a cockroach
Yeah.
running up the wall, I'm out. I'm not
No.
eating no more food. I'm
No.
not paying for my food. I'm gone.
Yeah.
It's like,
No.
Yeah, it is a difficult, like, yeah, it can't be just crawling around like that. I mean, it's a joke out here because, like, we're below sea level, so, like, you're gonna see some rodents. There's gonna
yeah,
be rodents around. You do need to have your exterminator and everything like that, but if you've got trash cans out back, you can have the best exterminator. It's gonna be gross.
correct.
You need to have, yeah, you just need to have a monthly, like, that's part of your bills. That just needs to go into your budget and everything. They are around. They will be everywhere. But
They had their Gordon
yeah,
Ramsay exterminator with the menu. He's like, "Can I borrow your menu
my
for a
God,
moment?" And
that's
he's like,
just that,
Yeah, and then
like,
he said
the
it's
perfect
sad.
display.
He said it's sad that the freshest thing in the restaurant is a
with the
cockroach.
roaches.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
And
running
even
away
that
from the
didn't want to
food.
eat anything. It was running up the wall. It wasn't even in the kitchen.
Like so nasty.
No.
And this is coming from I was in pest control for 6 years. I've done with some really nasty roast jobs. That was my life. But I'm like, man, we'd have some angry
That's
restaurant owners if I was servicing their place and they had cockroaches running up their walls. Some phone calls would be coming real quick.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I remember working in the industry at least once a month, if not more frequently. We'd have what was called bug night, and everybody hated bug night because you had to stay longer to close out your station, but you had to get the station ready for the sprays, basically. So you had to
Yep.
kind of turn your stations out. You had to turn the booth
Mm-hmm.
cushions out. You had to take everything off the table, like all the ramekins and the sugar things and the salt, and just turn everything out so they can come in and spray
Holds it down.
for
Yeah.
bugs. And it was gross, but I was like, I know it's necessary. It's part of what you do. I can't imagine that if they can't change the oil in their grease trap once a month, that they're doing any pest control whatsoever. So it's shocking they haven't found
absolutely not.
more evidence of infestation. And maybe that's coming in part two. I don't
Yeah,
know.
True.
when he forces the owners to actually clean, I'm excited to see
Well,
that
the shocking thing is
they
they bought the
left.
restaurant in 2023, right?
2023. Yeah,
Yes.
And that
they're
looked
over
that dirty already.
800,000 in debt. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you get a place, you get just whatever's left over from the last people.
It's true.
So they might not have done a clean. Like that might just be the stuff that was there, and they put some nice chairs in and cleaned the front of house. But like sometimes you'll just get like out here, it's just all right. That person's business left, and so they just left and they sold it with everything in there as a perk. So they probably just still have all the stuff from
That
the
makes
last
sense.
people that own that spot.
Yeah. Well, she did say that Camille had chosen the decor. He had picked out the colors. And
Yeah, the front
clearly
of house he
designed
changed with his
Yeah,
leaky fountain.
and his leaky fountain, and he designed his piano lounge. Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the live entertainment at the dinner theater that is Iberville Cuisine.
On Bourbon Street, or like right off of Bourbon Street.
Yes,
You have
right.
this man imitating
Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong in a weird way.
I mean,
He doesn't-
just the racial impact of
Yeah.
a white man trying to pull off Louis Armstrong in itself is weird. And he was, go ahead, Maggie. I'm sorry, I need a moment. Tell me
It's
what you
just
thought.
is rough. Like my first dance for my wedding was Levi and Rose, and so like we like just everything about the city and everything. So just hearing that, I was like, this is disrespectful. There's
You're
so many people. Like, let him play the piano. Like, sure, play the piano. Have somebody else come up and sing.
he
Oh,
wasn't even playing the
Like,
piano good. The piano playing
Yeah.
was bad.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these poor people have gone an hour waiting for their food. When they finally get their food, it's crap. It's nasty. It's full of salt. And then
Because that's
to
the
add
only
to
season
insult,
we got.
we are going to have to listen to this guy try to act like he's Louis Armstrong singing "When the
Yeah.
Saints Go Marching In." Because I don't know about you guys, when I go to a restaurant, that's the music I want to hear when I'm eating my food. Is the Saints Go Marching In?
That's the ambiance I'm looking for.
Like that's just the killer mood right there.
Well, he
Yeah.
believes in the power of music. He believes that it can soothe the savage beast and it can
I
revive
had
the soul. But
Or
I had so much faith in that moment. I thought that like, all right, well, this is his thing,
I did
and
too.
then and then
Well, it's his
Or
turn.
he's
what?
he's singing to the cockroaches to keep marching on because that's about the only
Yeah.
thing that was moving the whole entire time.
He's like
When
the
the roaches go
Pied
marching out.
Piper.
That's right.
He's like the Pied Piper with the rats and the cockroaches.
Let's
Maybe
keep it going.
You know what? That's exactly what's happened. The reason we didn't see more pest infestation is
Yeah,
because
he's
of Camille's
drawn 'em out.
piano music.
He
It
was singing them
literally
on.
drives them
Yeah.
away.
That's right. They run.
So that could be a perk at the end of the day. I don't know. But the fact that he comes
Yeah.
only, first of all, the fact that he ate that food
That's
shocked
the
me.
other thing.
He ate it at
Yes.
the bar.
Yeah, he just
Um,
ate it like it was good,
Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
and nobody else got food.
I was gonna say no one else has food, and this woman has the audacity to
Yeah.
go in the back, prepare him a plate of food, and bring it out. If I'm a customer, that's when my cool goes out the window.
Yeah.
I can usually stay pretty cool and
Yeah.
collective,
Yeah.
but the moment I see that man getting his food and no one else, I'm done. I'm making a scene
Yeah.
at that point.
Well, how many times have we been sat at a restaurant, and even somebody like me who knows kind of who's to blame and who's not, right? Because having worked in the industry, you kind of know the server is like the last
You
person
see
who can
who's-
blame
yeah.
for stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But you get seated, and then you see these people get seated like three after you, and then you see they get their food, and you haven't gotten your food. We've all done that. We've all kept the time, and have been like,
Yeah.
I was seated like 15 minutes before them. Like, why is their food out? And the fact
Yeah.
that in that case, everybody had to be keeping eyes on everybody's.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where's the food? Where's the food? And so for Camille to
Yeah.
get his trough of gumbo and just go at it while he's watching his phone, I would have been livid for sure.
Oh
It
yeah.
was just so bizarre.
And he's the infectious disease doctor. So Tulane. So
Yeah.
I did a little deep dive in because I'm always curious about folks, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I can cyber stalk with the best of them. And he works or at least at the time of filming,
Yeah.
he worked at Tulane University, and they have a pretty well-known, world-renowned infectious disease division there. And so
Yeah.
he's not a dummy. It doesn't appear to me. I assume he's still licensed in the field, but the fact that he could have such
Yeah, because he's still working. Yeah.
nonchalance and such
Well, and-
apathy for the conditions of food preparation, to not even get angry and scared that he's going to be sued or shut down just by the
Right.
health department. I found that really shocking. He had no reaction really whatsoever, except that, well, I've put almost $1 million in. I'm all in. And then he left. I don't get it.
He did leave.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think that's the
That's-
biggest problem, right? Like he wanted this to do this as a hobby. The restaurant business in itself, even if you're super passionate about it, is difficult. It's hard. Like your first few years as a business is not easy. And when you go into it that like, it's a hobby, I just like to entertain and it's all going to be fine. I mean, you kind of get the results you're looking at, especially when you're showing up, an hour every week to kind of look
Yeah.
at it and clueless to what's going on in the place.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of asking for what you're getting at that point.
Yes. Well, and he's
Yeah, that
literally-
really. I mean, obviously they'd said that they'd never really worked in the restaurant industry before, but like if you work in the restaurant industry, you have to pass certain tests. You have to you do the health code
Yep. Yep.
classes and tests and everything. Like the good zone and the bad zone. Like
Yep.
how you can't just have chicken breasts in water. What
Oh.
what is going
Oh,
on?
that was
Eggs in
so
water.
and the
Yeah,
eggs were in
the
water
shrimp
too.
coming out of that bag.
Oh, and then thawing the
So
shrimp
weird.
in warm water, and then
Yeah, that.
Okay, that was funny though.
she's
when
like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with him. I'm like, you are a moron. You
He
always
does dump it
thought-
on them though. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
That was great.
He spills it all over them.
Yeah.
right. He's like, smell this. It's rotten.
He's like-
that,
Yeah.
It's
That-
it's
that-
rotten.
that
But no,
walk-in wasn't working. Like there
No.
shouldn't be that much water.
no,
Right.
Like that walk-in just wasn't working.
no.
Like
I mean, and then the dead cockroach in there should have been your first sign because cockroaches can survive an
yeah,
apocalypse. The fact that a cockroach trapped in their walk-in couldn't survive and went belly up has to tell you some rancid crap is going down in that
yeah,
area.
some bad things are happening.
For
That
real.
cockroach was just stuck to the floor. That was his. He was still
Yeah, you
alive.
saw
He was
that
just
wet
stuck to
paint.
the goop on the
Oh,
floor.
oh, gross.
Yeah.
He was still
Um,
kicking.
yeah. Her saying that she does every job and
Yes.
Please.
like that's what a boss should do. A boss should be able to do every job. Like obviously, like if somebody that owns a restaurant, if you've been a chef, then yeah, you can. But like, you should
Yeah.
be able to do serving and
Or at least
mixing drinks.
expediting. You know,
And,
you should be able to do that.
yeah,
stuff.
not dropping two
She got
oysters.
a one
the first
tray.
dish that you
One
put out.
tray. You
You
had one
job
job.
to do, Bonnie. You had
One job.
one job to do.
You couldn't even do it.
Couldn't do it.
She's like, that's why she never touches any of this stuff. 'Cause she's just gonna do that.
She doesn't. I mean, honestly,
Like,
she looks
she's never
like
done this.
she doesn't touch anything. I mean, she has this
No.
very stiff, deliberate walk. She's always like lurking in the shadows of the camera. She's not hands-on anywhere except to deliver, gumbo to Camille. And her constant duck face. I know. I told
Yeah.
I'm going to say this to listeners. I told Jacob, I'm a nice. I like to consider myself a nice person. I'm very Midwest nice. I try not to go for the low hanging fruit. I try not to pick on people's appearance or accent.
It
because
was a
it's just
weird,
too
like,
easy.
constant duck face.
But you can't not say anything. You're right. It was a constant duck face, and the bulging eyes to boot. I just don't. Nothing about her exuded warmth and hospitality. So why she's rolling around
she
the
wanna
front of
roll?
house makes no sense to me.
Right. I think it was all the
Yeah.
Botox. It was just like sucking the skin so hard to her face, it was making her
Yeah.
eyes pop out and the
I'm
lips.
serious. I mean, she's maybe as a nurse, she's in the aesthetics field because they don't have a lot of that bedside manner like for illness or sick people. Because I can't imagine she would be caregiving to anyone.
Yeah.
And she readily admits she's bad with people. But if she's just
She
going
hates
to pick
people, yeah.
people, with collagen or lip filler or be an esthetician kind of person. Maybe that's her side of nursing. I don't know, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine she's in a hospital or a clinic environment dealing with patients. Because oh my gosh, if she walked into can you imagine you go to urgent care and you're feeling like garbage and you're hanging out there waiting as we do in the ill-fitting paper towel that they throw over us.
Yeah.
And that we're trying desperately to remain modest and then give up all hope and just lay there.
Yeah.
And somebody comes in and it's her, I'd be like, oh hell no. I need somebody else, like
Yeah.
somebody with like who has a body temperature. I mean, she just didn't look like
Yeah.
she was really living.
Yeah. It looks like a corpse, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what's going on. I'm sure she's long suffering on some level, but it wouldn't surprise me if she's medicating with something. I don't know what it is. She just
Yeah.
didn't seem all there for the
Well,
show.
Yeah.
And she said she constantly kept saying she's learned everything about the restaurant industry. And all I could keep thinking, I was like, where, from YouTube? Like, are you watching how-to videos? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you do in your office all day? Is like, how do I greet people?
Hey Siri, how do I greet people at my restaurant if there's a
Right.
cockroach?
She's an AI person. She's just like AI personification. She's just like, this is how this
Clearly,
works. Yeah.
clearly, she missed the video on how to carry a tray because we seen that didn't work out so well.
Oh my
She
God,
probably
that
went
was
back to rewatch that, but I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
So I made the mistake. My phone is nearby, and it caught my Hey Siri thing. And I got at least 3 good responses of how to handle customer complaints. Should I call the health department on my restaurant? And what every owner needs to know. So obviously, I guess there's an education to be
It's
had.
easy Google. Siri already knows.
I mean, that is.
But still,
I mean, I've worked in retail management for a very long time now. So the best way to deal with a customer complaint, you just nod your head, you smile, you tell the customer how wrong we are, and we're very sorry,
How
and
can
we
we make
hope we
this
can make
right
it better
for
for you.
how
Right?
can we make this right here? Yeah,
Then you're golden.
yeah. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Okay, I'm going to ask you, Maggie, because you work in bar. I'm sure the bar has food, even if it's
Yeah.
bar food. What would you say are the top 3 most popular items people ask for, or that your place of business sells and customers want? Like they're really going for it. What are like your top 3 New Orleans cuisine must-haves?
New Orleans cuisine, because like mine, we just do like we have a new pop up that's a completely different type of food. We have all sorts of stuff, but
okay, I got you.
like the main New Orleans ones are gonna be I listed some of the things because the way he pronounced them, but like the alligator bites. Like when people come to New Orleans, if they're in the French Quarter, they want to try alligator. which is going to be a mix of alligator and chicken or pork. Just a heads up, you're getting some alligator with a lot of those things.
Right. Note that,
It's normally
listeners, note that the ratio of alligator to other meat products
It's slim.
is something you should be aware of. Okay.
Yeah, boudin balls, oysters, yeah, jambalaya, red beans. Like, really think, like, a lot of those things are batchable. Like, the red
Yes.
beans, when I saw that those red beans came out like that, I make
Yes.
red beans in my home. Everybody does. It's red bean, on Mondays you make red beans. It's a
Yes.
thing out here. And so the fact that those came out and it was just so rough, I'm like, come on, man, like, you put it all in a pot. Doesn't have to
That's
touch
what-
any of that weird grease.
That was my
Like-
question. My follow-up question is, as somebody who, I'm a pretty decent home cook, I mean, nobody in my family's starving. My daughter's a vegetarian, and therefore I'm just a vegetarian by default. But a lot of what we do is, and a lot of folks out there now are doing meal prep. They're cooking a lot on a weekend. They're portioning it out for the week. They're trying to save time and money, etc. And to me, this is just an elevated ratio of meal prep. When you're looking at things like gumbo or jambalaya, now granted, you don't want the shrimp to get too hard or tough, so maybe you cook that fresh and add it to something. But red beans and it seems like these are things like you're saying that could be batch cooked. And then the other stuff is fried, except for your freshly shucked oysters. You've got the fried boudin balls. You've got fried beignets. You've got fried hush puppies.
Fried gator
shrimp,
bites. Yeah.
Fried gator bites. It's like, for crying out loud, that is the fastest, cheapest way to cook. So how they're getting that wrong is really what struck me as interesting, because so many of the other restaurants, they're missing on more elevated cuisine. And I'm not dissing New Orleans cuisine, not one bit. But you're talking about people who can't quite get like lobster right, or they can't get steak tartare right, or they can't get like a salmon thing right. And we're talking about frying gator tail, and they can't do it right. And I think that's just a huge miss. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that's a big thing of it, is that it's frozen. You can get fresh stuff really easy. You find a recipe, figure out your spices, and then you can have an apprentice plumber come in to do it. Have a recipe.
Yeah.
Right.
Have
That's
things
what I'm
freshly
thinking.
done,
I'm thinking even somebody
and
like
you just
me
have it.
could do it.
Most
Well, and-
procedures have things labeled, have it just ready to go. You could do because I make my red beans on Sunday, and they get to sit for the whole day, so that it's really soaks up, and you can use that for a while.
Yeah.
Jambalaya, it's rice. I mean, it's a lot more than just rice, but it's a rice dish. Like, you make a batch of it, you take care of it properly. You don't put it in the fridge as soon as you have cooked it. He found that he took it out of the fridge. He's like, it's hot.
Yeah,
Like, what
it's
are
still
you doing?
hot,
Like,
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can do
it's
that. You bring down the
insane.
temperature of the whole apparatus. Like, everything else in that refrigerator drops in temp. I mean, when you put something steaming in a refrigerator, it's like, it's home ec, 101, or, what are they calling it now? Like family science, whatever. But back when I took high school, food safety, it was kind of like, those are like the main things you learn. So even if
it's just basic things. You don't kill yourself when you make food.
That's right. That's right.
we don't kill ourselves or the people we feed. Rule number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's
that's the
just
thing.
those are things that
They
go ahead.
got all this going on, and I can imagine where they're located just from her walk. Like, you're competing against like 9 restaurants all on that block, and you're serving nothing fresh, slimy chicken, gross. Like, I love Gordon Ramsay. He's a mastermind. He can do great things. I'm not sold that he's going to have this place prepped for Super Bowl crowd coming in a couple
I'm not
months.
convinced. I'm not convinced either. I'm not convinced either.
No,
And
I
I
don't think
purposely,
the owners. I don't think the owners are going to accept whatever happens. They're gonna say
no.
thank you, and then they're going to go back and buy frozen stuff and just cut corners in like the stupidest ways.
well, and
it's
when
like-
you look at it, they're throwing it away. Okay, they're trying to save money, and like you said, Maggie, you can get fresher, cheaper food if you make connections and build relationships with local fishermen, with local farmers, and just get on their rotation. They're buying more expensive supermarket food, and it sucks so bad because all she'll give Nate apparently is salt, and he can't cook.
That's crazy.
So
And
all
margarine.
the food gets sent back and goes in the trash. So you might as well just take your, Harris Teeter
just save
or
money on
Kroger
it.
food cart and just throw it in the dumpster before you even get to the restaurant. It's like they're not saving money at all. I don't
It
even
was
understand.
Yeah.
it was just great listening to Gordon pronounce margarine the whole entire time.
Margarine, yes.
Margarine.
Yeah.
Margarine. I was like, is that somebody's name?
Yeah.
Is that the hostess?
You're using margarine.
Margarine. I need to refill
Wait,
water.
you call them
Margarine.
boudin?
I
You
What do
know.
you call
call them
them?
boudin balls?
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
thought that
boudin
for a
balls. Like
second.
it's
Yeah, I thought
hear
that
him
too.
say a bunch of Creole stuff or Cajun things.
Yeah.
Pretty
which is
much
really
from
fun.
here on forward, I'm just saying margarine.
I
That's
am
my.
too. It's the new way I say it. But I
Yeah,
did
it's
in
the
my
new
notes.
microwave.
In my notes, I was like, "Who's Margarine?" I wrote that down. Like, "Who's?" No, wait. Like, I counted for all the staff, and I was like, "Oh no." But Maggie is a vegan. You can appreciate the uses of margarine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not eating butter, margarine's a decent substitute, but not for
But
certain
that's
food
not how you
items.
make charbroil.
No.
I won't have them, but that's not what you do. You put butter on those oysters.
No,
You
no,
put them on the grill. Like
margarine. Good grief.
Oh
that's
my
crazy.
goodness!
But you
And
know
then we
what?
got it. Oh, sorry. I was
No,
gonna say we have to touch base on because we're getting to a point to where like, so now Gordon goes through all this. He invites all these people to come to the restaurant, which I've learned through this episode and watching Kitchen Nightmares. If Gordon Ramsay's on the street and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come eat at the restaurant?" No, I don't.
No, I
No, I do
don't.
not. You let me know when it's fixed, and I'll come. But I'm not coming right now because I know what you're bringing me into.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's like so. Then like you brought up earlier, Angie, where the guy was like, "I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm all in." And Gordon's like, "Are you really all in?" He's like, "All right, get your restaurant cleaned up," and they dip. They
Yeah.
leave the staff there. I'm like,
Totally did.
what?
Totally.
Like,
Like,
she
what
got
happened?
some like weird backdoor thing too. Like
She
just,
did
like,
go a weird back door, like some secret
like-
entrance.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a layer. I'm convinced there's a layer.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of it. But you're
They have
right.
the
You're
only
right.
basement in New Orleans.
Right. The only basement. Yeah, they've got the only basement in New Orleans. That's awesome.
That's their second restaurant. They got the
Yeah.
backup restaurant. That's
Right,
how she
right.
gets through it through the secret
Right.
tunnels.
Exactly. It's like an underground railroad, like conduit
Yeah.
that they've found, and they've like cordoned it off. But you're right. If Gordon is like, okay, he's like the stranger in the black sedan, right? That the guy in the van who comes up and says, "Hey kid, you want some candy?" Like, I am not coming to the
No.
I don't care if you're showing me
Danger.
pictures of your lost puppy. I don't care what candy you've got
Yeah.
for free. I am running the heck away because I know that I'm walking into what is likely a long hospital stay or at least a long night in the bathroom with somebody holding my hair. Like,
I will
that's
enjoy
Yeah.
that moment. I'll
Or-
shake his hand
or
and be
hungry.
like, "It's great to meet you," or hungry because you probably didn't get your food.
right. I wanted to say it's funny. The one thing he did get right in the American accent is Jesse James. Did anybody catch that? His sixth kid, he named him Jesse James.
Yeah.
Now, my
Yeah.
my cousin has a son named Jesse James, so it did not like strike me as terribly funny. But I'm like, wow, you named your kid after an outlaw. That's really, really interesting.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see what else.
The-
I really
it's
liked
just-
that the manager finally that when he gave them a moment to like, all right, go away, Cruella lady. I need to talk to these people and see what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And then they were like, thank you. Okay, she's not doing anything. Like they
Yeah.
just, they I'm glad that he gave them a moment just to be like, all right, honestly, what's happening? So
Yes.
that was really good.
And their office looked horrendous. Their
Oh my
office looked
gosh.
just as dirty as the restaurant did.
Oh, I
please.
thought it was like her sanctuary. When they kept saying she disappears to her office, I'm thinking it's like a semi-spa like zen
Yeah.
place for her to be on her iPad or do her nails or something. But it looked like a storage closet. I mean, it was
It did.
foul.
No.
I don't know what she's doing back there.
She had her deodorant there. She had all kinds of just weird stuff all over the place. I'm like, what is
They're
this?
using
Like,
body wash
Yeah.
for soap.
yeah, thinking
Yes.
of what is that?
You need
Body wash.
antibacterial soap to wash your hands. That's what is going
Ramsey's
on
like
here.
jamming through things like, "Where's your soap? Where's your soap?" And they're like, "There's never been any soap." I'm like, what do you mean there's no soap? And he goes, and then the manager's like way off in the distance. She's like, "We use body
Body
wash."
Two
He's like,
years.
"Body wash." He's like,
2 years of body wash. Now, look, even if you go, okay, I can't even believe this because if you go to the Dollar Tree, which is now like $1.25 in the States, for those
Yeah.
of you
Yeah.
who frequent your local Dollar Tree, it's no longer a Dollar Tree, it's the $1.25 tree. But you go to the $1.25 tree and you get a thing like that, a body wash, it still has to be cheaper to buy like the gross gallons from like the Eco Sis or whatever that company is that
Yeah.
sells restaurant like materials, like ounce for ounce. It's
Yeah, like
got to
Sis
be
does,
more
yeah.
economical. So they're not even saving money yet again.
"You buy it in bulk, you'll save a bunch of money, and you can buy it in
Exactly.
bulk." He's like,
I think that's the thing is she's
"Go
just buying.
Costco,
Costco or Sam's Club. Go get
Yeah.
some
Anywhere.
hand sanitizer at a minimum. Hand
And
sanitizer would be better than body wash.
and while you're at Costco or Sam's Club, try the free samples so you can understand what good food tastes like.
Right,
That can
that's
help you
right.
at your
Yeah.
restaurant.
That's right.
It will be
That's
great.
right.
Get a
That's
multi
right.
pack of different seasonings.
That's
Like,
right.
come on.
The fact that he enjoyed that food, I have to go back there because I'm like, how do you
I
eat
don't
this stuff? Like
understand.
everybody's like, this is gross. It's too salty. Even the wife was like, this is gross, and he's just chowing away like this is the best thing I've
Yeah.
eaten all day.
That sauce,
It
that
is
for like the
arteries.
Cajun fries, the sauce for the
Oh,
Cajun fries was
Yeah.
so like I can't.
don't get me started.
I'm
That
definitely not
sauce.
grabbing that with my fingers. What is
Oh,
happening? That was so weird.
all of it
Like
was weird. The captain's platter, which was just like a big bowl of
just
black
fried.
ball fried stuff. Oh, those poor
Like
people. I just don't
yeah,
even know. And I don't know if they're going to be able to save it. I don't know what's going to come next. I know that
yeah.
most things need to be fixed from the top down. And I got to say that management there, owners there, not manager, because she seems like she would, do a good
Yeah.
job if she's
Yeah.
incentivized,
If
right? If
she
she's
was allowed
paid
to do
fairly.
stuff.
Yeah, if she was
Yeah,
in
they were
town.
saying that it was just her that buys the stuff. So nobody can buy the things. Like I've had that happen before, where the owner or somebody takes over. Like, well, I'm going to do the purchasing. It's like you're not here. You're
Right.
not paying
Right.
attention. Like I know what needs to happen. I know what needs to be here. She's worked in other restaurants. She knows who to call. Like
Right.
she's already got it. They're already coming down the street to go supply the 9 other restaurants on the block.
Yes.
Hey, I see the truck pulled up. What's your guys like? There's vendors that come into restaurants and bars and they're like, "Do you need a vendor?" They walk in all the time. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
not, and she's just refusing to do it.
Well, and also with the congestion, the way in which all of those establishments are so close and on top of one another, that it is you would think it would be terribly efficient for a vendor to pick up one more business. It's not like they're going to these far-flung adjacent county restaurants or, driving 20, 30 miles between their stops and drops. It's like these places are really packed. It would seem to
Yeah,
me that you could get in on one of those delivery systems and place an order. I don't understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
The
you've
French
seen,
Quarter is like 8 blocks by 12 blocks,
there you
and
go.
there's
Yeah, there you
hundreds
go.
of restaurants in the French Quarter. Like our city is 8 miles long. Like there's not much. There's so many of us. There's so many things to do. Like they're right there. We have
Right.
fresh produce places that are just come right in, and they every morning they just drop everything off. Like
Well, what we're hearing
I'm just
now is there really is no
flabbergasted.
excuse. There's no excuse. There's
Yeah,
no legitimating what they've done, and to lose $5,000 a week. Okay, I'll be honest with you. 20. I mean, that's more than I make in. That's way more than I can make in a year. I don't understand that there isn't more of a level of urgency. I mean, I guess infectious disease physicians make bank that they can just bleed this money every week. I don't know, but I thought for sure, and like most Kitchen Nightmares episodes, when there's an issue of economic ruin or that they're going to be losing a heck of a lot of what they've put in, there's always a panic, and none of them seem panicked. Not a
Nope.
one, not even the staff, quite frankly.
yeah,
I didn't see anybody crying. People
yeah.
always
Like
cry in
them.
Kitchen
Yeah, them
Nightmares.
being like
Yeah.
I walk out with $40 a day or no money, and they still come in.
Right,
That's
No, you
crazy
have
to
to
me.
have. I have to have three more. I have to have 3 jobs, and I don't get
right,
none of my
Right.
jobs pay me that little.
right.
Like, what is going on here?
What what loyalty do you have for a job that pays you $0? Like
Yeah.
I could go to
Yeah,
McDonald's and make money. Like see ya.
Yeah, I don't know. There, like I
yeah,
said, I think there's more going on behind the scenes.
There's got to be.
I'm hoping we find it
yeah.
out. But if they turn that restaurant around, having seen Kitchen Nightmares before, knowing Gordon's mo, what do you think has to change? And just in the restaurant itself, menu, decor, atmosphere, staffing, like concept, like what do you think they're going to do to the place? What would you do?
A to Zen. Redo the whole thing. New management
Yeah,
staff, new get an actual
yeah.
cook, an actual chef.
Yeah. Even the decor inside is a caricature of New Orleans. Like it has that fake that has the fountain. So like, because what it is normally you have a courtyard in a place. That's like the design of it's history wise. I used to be a tour guide out here also. So history wise, so there's been 2 giant fires that happened in New Orleans, and because when the French had it, they were just like, oh, whoops, everything's made of wood, and something caught on fire, and everything caught on fire. And then it happened again. There's like 2 or 3 buildings that exist, and one of them is Lafitte's blacksmith shop because it's made of stone and it handles fire anyway. It's now the oldest. Lafitte's blacksmith shop is the oldest building that is a bar in this country. Everybody says it's the
Oh, wow.
oldest bar in the country. It's the oldest building that is a bar now.
Ah,
So,
okay.
And then when Spain took over, they're like, "We guys, we have drilled it with brick. Let's 3 Little Pigs style. Let's make this right." So everything would
That's
have
right.
yeah. So then they made it so the French Quarter is actually Spanish architecture. So that when they would rebuild it, inside of every area there's a courtyard with a fountain, and they would all have one ladder at least that could reach the highest level, so that people can leave if there's a fire. But every like little section of the house of the areas in the French Quarter has a fountain in it, and there's a ton of restaurants that they use that now as their outdoor seating and everything, or people that live in the French Quarter, they have that fountain out there and everything. So it's just a caricature of New Orleans inside of a restaurant. Like that just looked weird. It looked like a Disney version, but badly done.
Yeah,
So yeah,
or like-
the inside
yeah.
has to be accessible. They have to change the menu. They have to have staff that knows what they're doing. Like, and
Yeah.
just you don't need 80 fried things. You can have 4 things. You can have you have like 4 or 6 things like total on the menu. You can have 4 or 6 things, and that's
Yes.
enough so that you can be efficient with it. Like that's the main thing that he
Yeah.
always says is like, there's too much on your menu.
Yep,
Cut
you
it
gotta
down.
He always does.
edit. It's
Yeah.
like was it Coco Chanel said like that, when you leave the house, like take one thing off. Like it's always about editing.
Yeah.
Like, less is more. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. I would rather go to a place that says we do only 5 things, but we do these 5 things better than any place in
Exactly.
the city. I'm like,
Exactly.
well, then I know I'm going there for oysters. I'm going there for boudin balls. Or I'm going there for beignets. Not because they're
Yeah.
trying to be the jack of all trades. And I think the first stop for me has to be that sign. I'm sorry, as somebody who is, I'm kind of a history buff when it comes to typography and sign making in general. But when things are illegible, I mean, I've seen that episode a couple times now just to prepare
There's
to
too
chat
much
about
on
it.
it.
I can't read it.
It's
I'm
so
still-
much.
It's an
Yeah.
Iberville cuisine. It's up and around, and you can't read. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, like like get rid of that, like right away from the jump. That's got to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Just curb appeal has to be like, because there's a billion places to eat from. So if
Right.
I can't understand what's going on here, like,
Right.
and it's empty, I don't know what this establishment is.
Right,
Are you
right.
about to have an event? What's going
right.
on?
Yeah, is it reserved for a private party? Like forever?
Yeah.
it
For
looks like
your
forever.
private rendition of here in the marching of the saints.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Oh,
tonight
yeah.
only.
Right.
Everybody come. So I got to ask you, Maggie, before we get ready to sign off, do you want to give a little shout out to your workplace and, kind of, give them a little promotion or talk about what else is on the horizon for you and what's going on in your world?
Oh, absolutely. So I work at Britannia Bar. It's an uptown bar. And we have a lot of fun there. We've got like 4 nights a week we do live music. My husband hosts karaoke on Thursdays. That's when I bartend. We have like Premier League soccer games on all the time. We've got a new pop-up. We've got a giant shuffleboard table. Like it's a great time in there. It's a block off of St. Charles, which it's the St. Charles Avenue. That's where one of the main street cars goes down. And that's where Uptown parades happen. So they just go right by. We're a block off of that.
And what's the name of
yeah.
the bar again? Can you say it again?
Britannia Bar. It's
Britannia Bar.
the street that it's on is called Britannia Street.
Perfect.
And then also it is carnival season, and it is the season that we're finally allowed to eat king cakes. So from 12th night until Mardi Gras Day, we're allowed to eat king cakes. If you eat them at any other time, you have cursed our city, and it's sacrilegious. You can't do it.
Well,
It's
we're not
also
going to do
it's
that.
good. Yeah.
We're not going to do that. I'll tell
So
you.
I make
Go ahead.
I make and sell just like homemade vegan king cakes.
Nice.
So I'm started that. So I've got 7 orders in already for this week. And I make these giant braided king cakes. I do traditional filling. I make my own cream cheese, and I do an Oreo cream cheese. So as I was saying Oreos before, but I do an Oreo cream cheese and a strawberry cream cheese, and then a traditional one. And I
Now,
love
do you
it. So
use
much fun.
the tofu substitute if it's like a vegan cream cheese, or how are you
Yeah, so
cooking
I
that?
used to get the tubs from like the grocery store before, but those are like $9 each, and it's
Yeah,
just a
they
little
are
thing. So I found my own recipe, so I make my own tofu cream cheese,
awesome.
and
Nice.
yeah, so I've been making those. So if you're in New Orleans, then you could definitely order them from me. If you're outside of New Orleans, they are very heavy and extremely expensive to ship. They cost more
I
than
was
it
gonna
costs more to
say
ship them
I
than it
figured
is.
you.
So if you're in New Orleans, made by Maggie.nola on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff.
Awesome.
I have many friends that are not vegan that also very much love my king cakes. So if you're interested in some king cakes,
So it's
homemade king cakes
Maddie,
from Maggie,
Maggie,
made by
made
Maggie.nola.
by Maggie
Yep.
Nola on Instagram. Cool. We'll put a link to that
Yes.
on the pod when
Awesome.
we get it going, just so people
Yeah.
can find you. That's really cool. I'm glad. And if you didn't know, St. Louis has the second largest Mardi Gras next to New Orleans in
Hmm.
Soulard, downtown St. Louis. It's huge here as well. So I am very much aware of the sacrilege of eating king cake before it's time, and
Yeah.
every place around here is very much into, the like the Fat Tuesday, the whole kind of Lenten
Yeah.
celebration and commingling of those traditions. So we get a lot of that up here. I was a little surprised being in the Midwest that there's such a love for the Mardi Gras concept here too. But
Yeah.
I've
You've got.
never been down south. I'd love to come visit sometime. I know we floated out having some floor reunions down that way, so maybe
Yeah.
that'll happen. So
That'd be
maybe
great.
fun.
It's quite a party. The week leading up to it, we have parades every single day up on St. Charles. So you get
Wow.
stuck in the box, is what it's called, where the floats are just have taken over, so you can't get your car in or out of certain areas.
Wow.
So luckily, I have my little electric bike, so I can get around because you can't move your car. Like we shop like it's a hurricane season the 2 weeks before Mardi Gras, because we're like, can't move my car, can't get anywhere, so we have to get stocked up at home,
It's like
and it's a marathon, not
emergency
a sprint.
prepared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Well,
you
and I'm
come out
sure
to New
that
Orleans, hmm?
go ahead. I was just gonna say I'm sure that
Oh yeah,
Super Bowl
sorry.
44 is gonna make it even tougher, having
Yeah,
all of those people come into town. But hopefully they'll all, come up to your bar and you guys will make some bank that weekend.
yeah. Luckily, the Super Bowl is about a month before Mardi Gras Day, so we'll be having some parades, but it'll be good spacing out of it and everything because, yeah, it's huge. We have a good time. If you come out to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, it is a marathon or carnival season, but Mardi Gras Day, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Drink water. You're gonna be walking a lot. Don't go crazy with the drinking too much. Space it out.
So it's like
you or
hurricane
else you're gonna
water, hurricane water, 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 hurricane, water, water, water.
yeah.
Okay, we'll work on that. Well, we're gonna be back here next week, trying to find out what happened to the
Yeah.
Iberville cuisine, to find out if
Yes.
Gordon Ramsay's team was able to basically delouse the joint, because it sure looks like it needs a deep clean from top to bottom. So Maggie, if you're interested next week, hit me up and let me know if you want to come on and chat about what ended up happening. But I hope viewers and listeners will tune in next week when we find out what
Oh yeah.
happens on Reality Redux. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, hold on one second, Maggie. I hit stop, but
Yeah.
we need to just make sure that everything loads up before we log out.